What's going on, everyone? Vampyr Gaming here, and today we're going to be talking about Edward Newgate. So I just came back from the Kissimmee, Florida Regional, where I got top 32 with our own Edward Newgate. And I was actually, so I made it to the last round at X1. There was a number of Newgates at the top tables. Funny enough, I think I was the only Newgate that was X1 in the last round that lost their game. So that's always fun. But super happy with the results. I had never topped with Newgate, so I wanted to set out. My friend Ryan Tinney just got top 8 at Peoria, and I got top 32 at Peoria as well. And I was like, I wanted to play Newgate. I was thinking it through in my head and all the math, and I'm like, Newgate's really good. So in this video, we're going to talk about the deck list, my matchups, my overall thoughts on the deck in this meta and going into EB01, and just kind of talk about the deck and any kind of flex space I think it might have. So let's go ahead and just dive in here to the deck list. So pretty simple, and it's the exact same list as the guy who got first place, playing it the first week of OP06 competitive, and I understand why fully. I think part of it is nobody knows how to play against Newgate optimally, because every deck wants to play into their curve and establish bodies. Now, of course, them establishing bodies is a slight problem for us, because then they can eventually try for a math win. But you can super aggro in a way that no other deck can, and you have a lot of just key cards to get around everybody's current playstyle. So let's go ahead. First up, we have like the Sanji. So this Sanji, he's really just a 2K, but he does have the potential to put in a lot of work if you play him going second, or if you're going... you could play this, and then maybe you're playing against yellow, and you might be able to play Marco and then use this effect and swing 6-7. That's really the only play that you have. Or you can play it later and then use it the turn after, assuming they don't remove. But if they want to really waste removal on him, that is fine. But you don't want to play this against Moria. He's just going to KO with Absalom. So don't play this against Moria. But so we got Sanji, we got Nami. This is your searcher. We've got Newgate. In terms of flexible cards, I think Newgate could be a 4 of. In my last match against Saka, I could have pulled this Newgate, and I didn't. I had Newgate and Ace, but I didn't have a 7 curve turn play, and so I opted to pick up Ace, and then I pulled Ace right out of life. And if I had picked up Newgate, I for sure won that game, hands down. But that's okay. I didn't have the foresight, and I made the correct play with the knowledge that I had. However, if I was playing for Newgate, I probably would have just picked up Newgate, or I could have even just seen him from life more likely, and whatnot, because you draw 2 cards per turn, so you have a decent chance at seeing them. Jozu, he's a 2K. Same thing here with Ace. I think somebody did top the event with 4 Ace. I understand it. At one point, obviously, Ace at 4 was just, like, mandatory, and it makes sense. But, like, again, if I had Ace at 4, I probably would have just took Newgate since he's at 3, and I would have took Newgate knowing that I'm more likely just to see Ace, and things could have just worked out. But it is what it is. Still super happy with my placement. And then, of course, Makino. Makino is a huge, huge card. Makino is actually, I think, just underutilized. Because I was smacking down, especially if, like, Rage You, I was smacking down Makino. I did, like, a double Makino play. Because then I have 4 characters on board, and you can only answer 1, 2 if you play out the big blue. And then you just answer both my Makinos, and then if I want to dawn up my Namis or Izos afterwards, I can still do 2 heavy pushes. So I did huge, and it also keeps cards out of your hands, so it gives less value, of course, to putting as well. So huge plays by Makino, and then, of course, at the end when you're pushing for game 2, if I had a body, if I had a little 1-drop, which obviously they kept bottom decking Versaka, because they'd play the Amanamanono sword thing. And I was like, okay, that's fine. So they'd bottom deck those, And I was like, dang. And I was like, if I just had one of these, I would have good math. But I didn't. So it is what it is. But then, of course, Marco. I was asked a little bit about Marco. If any card could be 3, I think it was this. He's really good against yellow for the most part because you can just keep him at 2 and they can't Amaru because they can't reject and force life. So they have to hard cast, pay 4 to KO this with reject to answer it, and they just lose 4 Dawn. And then he essentially blocked a 9k swing if you want to think about it like that. So, big fan. And Saka and Gecko, he's really just going to be counter, or he's going to be a last resort play when you know that they're like low on resources. You need to stop their math or them just from going like all in and potentially swing like inefficiently. And then, of course, Izo, your main searcher. Marco, this card puts in some work. He's not as great as a rusher on 5. You always just want to see a rusher, but this card gave me the opportunity to win versus Saka because you can pop Rebecca, and then if they play like Rebecca on 4 for some reason, you can play this on 5 and just answer it. It also gets rid of things like Branu, which is their most efficient swinger, since they can both buff him up to 6, and then he can still swing on par with your lead, so he can answer those, which is cool. And then, of course, Nico Robin. This card was actually, so never came up in gameplay. The one time I did see it, I discarded it off of a Perona, and it didn't come up a lot. But if I had top decked this in my last game, I would have won. So it does have value. I do think it's playable. I think that there isn't any other card you could replace this with that has better potential in terms of like your spacing, especially while having counter. Then, of course, Monkey D. Luffy. This card is the best card in the deck, and one of the reasons why it's phenomenal, because it doesn't matter how many blockers you have. If your opponent has 1 life and they're low on resources, and you're playing black or like Saka, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna play this, I'm gonna hit your life, unblockable. Now, in the same argument is I just hit that life, so you either have the removal, you have to have the removal, or if you don't, if he would die, I would die. So I'm going to win. Because if I have enough counter to save this from any swing you do, it's the same thing for my leader, because I'm probably at 0. So then you're forced to go at my face. Or you're forced to remove this. You have to remove this and hope I don't have another one in my hand, or you're forced to push for game. And so it creates unique instances in which you can just win. But yeah, playing this down when they're at 1 and just doing an unblockable swing while low hand and then hitting that last life either forces them to go for game and you make sure you have enough counter, or they have to play to remove this, banking that you don't have another one in hand. And they probably still have to, like, you know, establish something. It's really good. But then Sanji, a lot of people ask me about this too. Really good if you're going second, playing this down instead of playing this Luffy is big, especially against those black, those geckos, and then the Sakazuki. So you can smack this down and also just still go 6-6 on that turn. And then on your 7 as well, if for some reason you don't have ace and you have like 2 Luffy in this, you play Luffy, go 6-6, and then you go 6-7, assuming you lost this Luffy, or 6-6-7 on the turn you play this Sanji, then you play like 9 Beard, things like that. So, and the 6 stat line for those removal just makes him slightly harder to remove unless they just hard swing in it. So that number 6 is slightly nice. And then you've got 4 Radical Beam, staple 4 of, and then we've got Guard or 1 Bad Manners. This is just because we play these 10 no counter cards, and also these technically are no counter. You can use this to make this a 1K and then this a 2K, because sometimes you get too many of these. So also in terms of flex space, I think like I saw somebody playing 2 guard point, because there were times where I just had too many. And in mini games, nobody is just big, gigantic swinging, trying to go for game. A lot of people are trying to like math out and get as many cards as possible instead of 1 gigantic swing. So I don't think that these are needed as much, but it does help mitigate that. But you could potentially, like, you know, play just like a regular 2K, because sometimes you just don't have enough. or even like one of these, or even like that extra ace. But those are the cards that I think are flexible for the deck. So now for my matchups. So round 1, I played versus Katakuri. It was a new guy. He's not new, but it was his first regional. Playing Katakuri, very nice guy. I lost. I got high rolled by life. When going for lethal, he had Sanji and Brule in the life. So I didn't get through, unfortunately, so I lost that game. And then round 2, I played against Sokka. I won. Round 3, Blurple Croc. I won. I almost lost, which was absolutely crazy, because I just got stuck with a ton of those events in my hand. It was like, if you swing giant, I might just lose here. But who would do that, right? Like, he didn't. He also pudding me twice. He pudding me twice, and I lost 8 cards. So he got a ton of value off of pudding. I didn't even fathom that pudding existed in that deck. So, because I was like, I don't know what I'm playing against. But we won, thankfully. Round 4 was versus Reiju. He actually played 2 Reiju back-to-back. He won the dice roll, went second. Then turn 1, played the baby Reiju, brought out big Reiju. Turn 2, played baby Reiju, brought out big Reiju. And so he had 8 cards. I think he also played the stage, so he'd like play it at like 5 and get like 6, whatever. And I was like, cool. This is crazy. And so he had more cards than me at one point. And then I eventually like whittled down all the cards and just able to get there. But that was the only reason he even had a chance, was because he just had infinity cards from the start. Round 5 versus Moria, I won. Round 6 versus Moria, I won. Round 7 versus Sokka, I won. Then in round 8, I played against Awakened. And I was so sad to see his name, because I was like, I wanted us both to top 8 that day. And I was like, if we do play, at least let us be in the last round, so I know at least one of us tops. And then I played him round 8 and I won, but it was so bittersweet. It was so funny too, because he was talking about the deck. He was like, dude, you're crazy. I was like, I don't know, man, there's something here. And then it just really happened to work out. So, and then round 9, I lost against Sokka. It was a very close game, but he saw 3 Moria. I did not see my 9 Beard. I bottom decked 1, and I just didn't come into another one. And he just looped Rebecca and 2 Ks. And when I pushed for game, he just had it. So it happens, but I had a great run. Now, overall, I think this deck is very solid. I think this weekend was the best weekend to run him. And I think a lot of people caught on to that as well, because he pushes so hard, and there's just nothing you can do about it. And it was just like, some of the games are close, but it's just like, it's so strong if you know what you're doing and you have strong fundamentals in the game. And it meant a lot to me, because I'd never topped with Newgate, but I've topped with Ace. But now I've finally topped with Newgate. And I had a phenomenal time. Black Yellow Luffy, I think, nullifies this deck. I could be wrong, but my thoughts are it just doesn't work out for Newgate. You do have the unblockable Luffy, which can do 16 to the dome on a 9k no-life leader. And then so they have to have the counter, which could be a thing. Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm sure we'll find out soon enough. I'm really excited to try Black Yellow Luffy, but I think as we go into EBO1, I think we'll see the fade out of Newgate once again. But it's always great to see the old man back. And as always, if you found this content of value, if you could do me a favor, hit the subscribe button. It helps me out a ton. I make a ton of One Piece content. I've been grinding the competitive scene, so I haven't been on here as much. So I appreciate all you who have been rocking with me. And as always, thank you all so much for watching.